Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of the resellermindset.com. And for this Reseller Friday, I'm going to talk to you about the truth about sell-through rate that nobody knows. When you hear people talk about what is the sell-through rate for this item, they may say, oh, it's a 200% sell-through rate. It's a 300% sell-through rate. These numbers sound good, but here's the fatal flaw with that. And I'm going to get into eBay and show you directly how this makes no sense. Let's say you had 1,000 items that are showing up. You currently go on eBay, search for an item, 1,000 items appear. And then you search the sold listings and it says 2,000 sold. Well, using normal reseller math, that would be a 200% sell-through rate because there's 1,000 items available and 2,000 have sold. So there's 200% sell-through rate. But this has a fundamental flaw in it, in the fact that those 2,000 items were on eBay originally too. So you have to count them in the total. So the real total is not 1,000 that are currently listed. It is 1,000 that are currently listed plus the 2,000 that sold. So you'd actually get the sell-through rate from dividing the 2,000 that sold into the 3,000, which is the current 1,000 that are available, plus the 2,000 that sold. Because you cannot have more than 100% sell-through rate because you can only sell 100% of the total items available. Whether there's 2 items available or 1 billion items available, you can only sell 100% of them. If there's 1 billion items available and 2 billion is sold, something's not adding up there because there had to be 2 billion available to sell. So the actual rate is not anything above 100%. You can only get up to 100%. So in the case of this item that has 1,000 items currently available for sale on eBay and has 2,000 that sold, you would divide 2,000 into 3,000 and get the actual number of 66, or basically 67% if you round up. That's the sell-through rate. You can't have a 200% sell-through rate, but that is how most people would have claimed the sell-through rate was for that item, and it's just not the case. Now, this may seem like I'm just being a stickler for the math, and I, in the old days, used to do the same thing. 200% sell-through rate. It sounds good. It makes sense on the surface until you start actually thinking about it. Wait, you can't have 200% of items sell because there can't be 200% of an item. There can only be 100% of whatever is available, and that's it. But this can give you more accurate measurements because sometimes people are buying things saying, oh, it's 300% sell-through rate. Well, is that good or bad? Because with this information, this item would have been considered a 200% sell-through rate. But the reality is it's a 67% sell-through rate. Now, is that good? Yes, that is absolutely very good. I would say, generally speaking, anything above 50% sell-through rate is pretty good. That means in 90 days, it has a 50% chance of selling. This example I'm using of 1,000 items currently available and 2,000 of that item have sold, there's a fundamental flaw in the reseller sell-through rate math. That is, we do not know how many items were listed during that 90-day period that the 2,000 sales occurred. What if there were 100,000 items listed at that time and only 2,000 sold? That paints a very different picture. So even if we get the most accurate measurement possible for sell-through rate, it's still not 100% perfect because there's all kinds of variables we do not know. And we may never be able to know. Such as, like I said, you do not know how many of those items were listed. What if this example of 1,000 items currently listed and 2,000 sold, what if at the time there's only 2,000 listed and all 2,000 sold? 100% sell-through rate. You don't know. Now, obviously, this is just basic math to give you an idea if something's worth buying or not, but you can't rely on it as if it's 100% gospel truth because it's not. The math is leaving out certain variables that you can never know. And those variables can cause you to make a mistake if you don't source correctly, because you can get into a big time mistake with a bunch of items that are never going to sell. Now, there are a lot of variables that go into that even. And I'm not going to get into them all here because it's going to be a complete waste of time. But obviously, if your price is lower, maybe a lot of those items don't sell because they're just priced too high. price is a huge concern and a huge issue that many people as resellers overprice their items. So even some basic things, you can take this example, a 67% sell-through rate, which is really good. You might be able to bump it up to more like 90% if you have a good title, good pictures, and the best price available. Why wouldn't your item sell quickly? If 50% on average sell, and you know a lot of those listings that aren't selling are not very good and they're overpriced, you just price fairly, have a good listing, and you should get the sale. And so with this example, we still have to get back to the fact that you really have to examine the items that are currently for sale on eBay, because they may be priced poorly. They may have bad pictures. There may be something, maybe they don't take returns. And so people are sorting by free returns. And so they're automatically filtering out a bunch of them, maybe 50% or more of the people. In some cases, the amount of people who take returns is something like less than 20%. Maybe that's why the sell-through rate's not all that great, because maybe a lot of these people are getting filtered out by buyers because they don't accept returns. And you have to understand, people wanting to be able to return an item does not mean they're trying to scam you. Doesn't mean they're trying to take advantage of you or anything like that. They could be, of course, but that's not what it means necessarily. Sometimes they just want to know that you back your product and you stand behind it. And if there's a problem, they know they're not going to have a problem with you because they know you're a good seller and you will take the item back. Listen, none of us like to take returns, but it's part of the business. People can't see the item, they can't feel it. And until they get it, they don't exactly know what they're going to get. And some of these people might sort and filter out people who don't accept returns, not because they want to return anything, but because they've had bad experiences on eBay and they want to be protected by the seller accepting returns. They don't want to return anything. So the way we calculate sell-through rate as resellers is generally wrong. And there's so many variables that go into it that it makes it almost useless, because we don't know why the other 90% of those cars did not sell. Maybe the price is too high. Maybe the pictures are bad. There's so many variables. So I think we really need to reconsider this. I'm not telling you to throw away the whole concept of trying to find the sell-through rate. It's a great measurement tool to at least know this item has some velocity or not. Because if you go on there and you find an item, there's 200 available for sale, and you check sold listings and there's 0 sold, maybe that's not a good item to get. That should be pretty obvious. But what if there's a couple items sold, but there's 200 available? That still may not be a good item to get. And if there's 200 for sale, but 300 are sold, that's probably a pretty good item to get. And that's probably going to sell for you pretty quickly, presuming you do everything right. And so the whole point of this video is to make sure that we're really thinking logically and reasonably, and we're approaching this as a real business, because we can go by the folklore of resellers telling you, oh, here's how you calculate sell-through rate, and it's always wrong. Where is any reseller telling you to calculate it correctly? There's none out there. And this is basic math, but it is something that people overlook. And while maybe it's not the most important thing, but it does add up, because if you overlook this thing and you overlook this thing over here, there's a lot of little things you can overlook and maybe be a little sloppy on, maybe not be as accurate as you could be. That can lead to problems in your reselling business. They can lead to you not getting the most sales. Maybe you've calculated the sell-through rate incorrectly and it caused you to buy items that do not sell fast enough. So we need to really be logical in thinking about our reselling business and do the best we can. Understanding that the reselling business is a great business, but it is not the end of the business world. For most people, it's a beginner business because you get into it and all you gotta do is just take something from your room that you're not using anymore, list it on eBay, and you now have a reselling business. But as you grow, there are more things that come into play. And so that discussion will be for another video at another time. But for this video, I pray this has been a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.